and welcome here today to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host here today, and I would like to introduce actor Johnny Elliott and filmmaker producer Alex Fegan, who was an acclaimed Irish filmmaker renowned for his poignant and culturally rich documentaries that delve into the heart of Irish identity. As founder of Adam Films, he has directed several notable works, including Older Than Ireland, The Irish Pub, and Abbey Feelgood, which have garnered both national and international acclaim. And Johnny Elliott, who is an award-winning screenwriter, actor and filmmaker from Dublin, known for his distinctive voice in both comedy and drama across film, television and digital media. With over a decade of experience, Johnny has crafted a wide range of content from sharp-witted TV pilots to poignant feature films and viral online skits. So, Alex, just a couple of questions here. What was the first image or idea that sparked this film?
So my daughter asked me if Santa exists or not. She was about 8 or 9. She was just I don't know. I think she was kind of one of those very curious kind of kids, and she was I don't know, something was going on in her head, and she just asked me that question. I won't tell you what my answer was, but I was just the idea of the film kind of sparked then, and I didn't really know what to do with it for a while, and then over a period, it just sort of the idea sort of unfolded about this artist whose daughter asked him that question, and what happens when he tells her what he believes is the truth.
Very good, very interesting. And how did working with a limited budget shape your creative decision?
I thought it was great because when you have a big budget, there's always kind of constraints that come with that. You're almost just like you're almost in a straitjacket, and so actually by having a limited budget, you're much more free to kind of do what you want, and I think you're more true to your idea with that. So it's a good thing.
Very good, very good. And Johnny, what drew you to this role, especially knowing it was a low budget project?
Well, low budget is where I live.
Oh, right.
But Alex was, because Alex contacted me. It was actually Sinead O'Riordan contacted me. Alex had contacted her to ask her for my number and what I was like to work with. And then Sinead said to me, Alex Fegan was asking about you for a feature he's doing. And I said, what's the feature? And she says, I think it's about a man, a middle-aged man having a breakdown. And I was like, oh, Jesus, it was like, and more misery porn, And so Alex, I'm still going to do it. Don't get me wrong, I want to work, so I'll still do it. But Alex then, Alex gave me a shout, he gave me a bell, and I had a chat with him, and he sent me the treatment. And I was reading the treatment, and I was just breaking me bollocks laughing. Essentially, I just thought it was one of the most interesting things I'd read in years, the most exciting things I'd read in years. I immediately started identifying with the character. In fact, I thought he had written a film about me. And I think that was what drew me towards the character, is that I think a lot of men will identify with this, because when I read it first, I said he's just written a movie about me, I think. And then I said, no, it's actually me mate Terry. And I said, no, it's actually me brother Ray. And then I was talking to a friend of mine just last week, and I was explaining about him to him, and he said, that sounds like me. So I think a lot of men will identify with the character, and a lot of women will identify the character. They'll look at it and go, yeah, I know that fucking idiot. I've been married to that dope for 20 years, Yeah. You ask them to make Rice Krispie cakes, and you'll be lucky if the house doesn't burn down. So that's kind of what drew me towards the film. That just immediately I just identified with the character.
Very interesting, Johnny, yeah. And, as an actor, a seasoned actor working in the Irish film industry for many, many years, what would you say are the pros and cons of working on a smaller scale indie film, let's say in comparison to a larger budget production, which you have been involved in many times, I believe?
Well, we spoke about this, Alex, a lot, haven't we? There's just stuff. It's just a lot. It's just a lot easier when you embrace the constraints of low budget, you can work wonders. If you're trying to disguise your lack of budget, then you're fighting against budgets. But if you're fighting against movies with major budgets, but if you're embracing the fact that you've no budget, you can work wonders. So, for example, there's a scene where, so around Christmas, we knew all the Christmas lights were up. We knew all the Christmas revelers were out. We knew all of those people were out there. So it's essentially me and Alex with the camera and the lav mics walking around the streets of Dublin in the middle of Christmas parties and Christmas trees and all of that stuff that was around. That if you have a budget, you have to pay for. Whereas we just walked into the middle of crowds and filmed, So there's that stuff. There was one, myself and Alex just walked around for days, or at night time a lot. There was one time we were up around Thomas Street and we were filming. We were filming me just walking down the street, and then we could hear the clip clop of horses. And it dawned on us, we were beside the Guinness Storehouse where you have all the lads with the horse and carriages that bring people around, the tourists around and stuff like that. I said, there's a horse and carriage coming down here. It'd be great if we get, me walking one way, the horse the other way, if we both passed the camera at the same time. So we just ran back and got set it up, and when the horse and carriage came down, we walked past it and got the shot for free. Now, if you have a budget, you need somebody handling the horse up there. You need people on radios and radio mics and all that sort of stuff saying, let the horses go, extras, action this. You need all sorts of people on the job to get that simple shot. And then we heard another horse and carriage coming down, so we actually got the shot twice for nothing. So
very good.
If you embrace your lack of budget and you lean into that, it's a much more freeing and liberating experience.
And like you said, Johnny, you shot a lot of these scenes during Christmas, over Christmas time, when we had all the Christmas lights up in the city and Christmas trees and windows and the tinsel. So you didn't actually have to create a Christmas set. You had one ready-made, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was we filmed in supermarkets. We filmed in the Chester Beatty Library. We filmed in all these locations where all the Christmas decorations were already put up. So imagine set design costs would be huge for those sort of things. So it was just great to have access to all that. The other thing is with these low budget films is you have to have they're hugely collaborative, and you have to have a team of people that are all willing to come on board. So for the likes of Johnny to say, yeah, look, I'm willing to embrace this this method is everything, because if that didn't happen, then the film wouldn't happen. So it's really about kind of getting like-minded people who just want to make stuff.
Very good. And Alex, you would call this style of filmmaking a guerrilla style filmmaking, yeah?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, it is a bit to a degree. There's a bit of method to the madness as well, would you say, Johnny?
Yeah, there is. It is. Well, it's what's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. Is that if we had it done, because we've been shooting this now for it's May now, so 6 months.
Yeah,
we're into our 6 months shooting this. If we had put aside a month, for a block and shot just everything within that block, there'd have been so much stuff we would have missed. Because as we were shooting, as we were going, and as we were collaborating, we were coming up with other ideas and other things that were fitting in, and then we can do this. Whereas we had a shot in that block alone, there was no going back. There was no. We were past the point of return. We the film we would have shot was what we would have had. All of these ideas and all of these sort of creative decisions, we would have missed completely. We would have lost them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And Alex, due to the budget restrictions, because it's funded by yourself as far as I know, so it's self-funded rather than getting film funding from Screen Ireland or FIS Ireland or RTE or whatever. So, was there a scene or shot that you had to radically rethink due to budget restrictions? And can you remember how that would have turned out?
Not really. To be honest, most of it, first of all, so it's self-funded, but it's not just self-funded by me. It's also self-funded by Johnny and by John, because they're giving their time. So it's that time has huge value. So this and also by a lot of the other actors. It's so it's self-funded by a lot of people, if you like. But it's amazing in terms of in terms of like getting locations and whatnot. There's always, where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find a way to get access to things, or if you want to make something look high budget, you can find a way to do it. Just by being a bit more creative, as opposed to just throwing money at it, which I suppose you'd do in a budget as well. And like Johnny mentioned, just about having time sometimes can really help, and that's true, because like I might write a terrible script with my desperate dialogue, but by Johnny being able to, or Tanya or John or some of the other actors being able to look at these and say, okay, well, what about this, or can we change this line, or have you thought about this? And then slowly but surely, what starts off as something quite bland and stale and on the nose suddenly becomes alive. So that process is in every single shot of this film, is that sort of that dialogue between all the filmmakers involved. Would you say, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was. I mean, that was the great thing as well, but even like not having an AD. So I mean, ordinarily that you would see that as something that was limiting, but the fact that we didn't have somebody cracking the whip meant we could stay there for 4 hours, or however long it was needed to get what we needed to get from the scene. So not having an AD worked in our advantage. So that's another example of lack of budget actually benefiting us. You know?
Yeah. This could be a new way.
Yeah, a new way forward for filmmaking. With particularly with low budget filmmaking. As we all know, that where Johnny's been very much involved in for many years, and so too yourself, Alex. And given that, considering that I was on set there last week when you were filming in Donabate there in the mobile home with Tanya and Johnny, that particular scene, I did notice that you were taking on board a lot of roles upon yourself. Whereas in let's say a larger budgeted film, you would have designated roles for sound, for continuity artist, for camera setup, But you seem to be juggling a lot of elements there on your own. And how do you find that actually? And do you think that would detract from your focus on directing?
Maybe, yeah, it's good. We'll see. I suppose that's one of the benefits of having done documentary for so many years, is that you tend to do everything. You tend to do the camera, the sound, the editing, and I wouldn't be unique in that. There'd be a lot of other filmmakers that would follow that role. Even wedding videographers often do sound and camera and whatnot. So it's if people coming from the drama world kind of look at it and kind of go, that seems absolutely crazy. But actually, that's something that I would have been doing for 10 years. So I wouldn't say it wouldn't be a problem, in my opinion. But maybe the quality will be dramatically lower than the average film. But maybe that's a good thing. The grittiness of it.
Interesting, Alex. And do you write with budget in mind, or do you revise the script afterwards?
Yeah, I don't really. I suppose you do. Yeah, like, so for a film like this, I'd be kind of writing it, going, okay, this seems like. And I remember was sitting with Johnny early days, and we were kind of going, there's a court scene, there's a scene here, there's a scene there, a scene in the hospital. We were kind of going, are we being realistic here? Is this pie in the sky stuff? But it's amazing when you take one thing at a time. It's never actually that bad. Like if I was saying, okay, we could have a school with a class of students, and then I've got to get a judge, and if I was to do a one scene after another in 21 days in a row or whatever, like a standard film, then it would seem like a massive amount of organizing. But when you kind of just take it one week at a time, it becomes a lot more doable. You were probably looking at me like I had two heads on me in the beginning with all those scenes, were you?
Yeah, well, because when I read the treatment, I was saying, oh, okay, there's a budget here, because I was looking at the courtroom, the hospital, the kids in the class, and and but you're right. When we, as you said, if you take it one thing at a time, suddenly it doesn't seem that insurmountable.
Yeah.
The court scene just fell at, kind of, even when we were in the school, walking up to when we were shooting in the school, I was just thinking, yeah, this was fairly handy to get. That was you just hanging around at Dorset Street, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I just called into the school. I wouldn't be hanging around schools now or anything like that.
Yeah.
I deliberately phrased it that way.
Yeah.
Not a wise decision this day and age, folks. Not wise at all. And just to add forward to that, Alex and Johnny, how did you source your locations? When you're writing scenes and you're thinking about where you're going to shoot the project or where you're going to shoot a particular scene. So, did you have to make many compromises when you're writing scenes, or which comes first, your location, then the writing, or vice versa?
It's always the writing first. Like, so, say for example, a school, like they were just talking about that there. So, we needed a school that had 2 billboards right beside it. So I literally went on Google Earth and just went around the city centre and looked at all the various schools, and would kind of go along the street, and then very quickly I saw one with 2 billboards, and then the next question is, okay, well, are they going to allow us to film there? And then that's just a case of just calling in and asking. And if they say no, then you'll find another solution.
Yeah.
He was knocking at doors, by the way, up in where was it?
Smithfield.
Up in Smithfield, knocking at people's doors. This is only last month, asking them, can you put a Christmas tree in their window?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was
Very
looking
good.
at him going, he's mental. Actually,
Well,
walking
they all
knocking
said
at
yes.
people's doors. They said yes.
Well, look, that's a new and innovative way of making movies, particularly with budget restrictions. And, I think going forward, I think that type of filmmaking could be very, it's probably the way to go for someone like yourself on limited budgets.
Yeah, just I suppose like if a kid wants to play like Premier League football, they've got to spend years playing on the green first for free, with their friends, with their mates. And I hadn't done a feature drama 12 years earlier. I made one which was terrible. It was really, really bad. And so I can't. It's very hard to ask anyone for money for something when you haven't played football on the green for many, many years. And there is this idea of everything has to be big budgets and stuff. It doesn't work like that. You have to prove yourself. And that was how I was seeing it. Obviously, Johnny and John and all these other actors have proved themselves many, many times. So that then it's for the hope from somebody like me is, God, will they actually come on board? Will they buy in to me having to play football on the green? So I was just very, very lucky that to have such talented actors as John and Johnny. And Tanya and Fernanda, to come on board. That's just luck, I suppose.
Very good, Alex. And you did say that you did film particular scenes at the Chester Beatty Library. How did you get access to the premises, let's say, and did you have to pay a fee?
No, I just explained to them what this was about, and
did you tell them the truth?
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, you'd always kind of you'd kind of tell them as close to the truth as possible, and then from there you'd get in and do a bit of filming. Like, obviously we're dealing with 2,000-year-old manuscripts, and they wouldn't allow any Tom, Dick, or Harry in there with their tripods and cameras right beside it. So it was it was a real honour to film there, wasn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. The oldest copies of St. Paul's letters to the Corinthians.
Very interesting.
In the world are there, and nobody seems to know it. So it was Alex had written it in the treatment first about that, and I had no idea that they were actually in the Chester Beatty Library. So it was we were delighted to get in and be able to film.
Yeah, excellent. And Johnny, what was the hardest part about acting in a film with Alex, with limited takes and obviously limited time to shoot the film in?
I mean, it hasn't been hard. It's been immensely pleasurable. I'd say maybe there was one time we were down in what's the name of Alex and Kilkenny?
St. Nicholas's grave tomb in Jerpoint.
In Jerpoint, yeah.
Jerpoint in Kilkenny.
Kilkenny, and we had the actor that's playing my daughter, Anna. It's Maisie. It was lashing rain, and we were trying to sort of grab the scene in the middle of a field because it was in the middle of the depths of winter, wasn't it? January we did that.
Yeah, January, it was cold.
Cold, it was miserable, and we were kind of just trying to grab the scene. And then we also had the man who owns the place sort of giving us a impromptu guided tour that we didn't realise we were getting as well. We were trying to go, oh no, how are we going to get this shot? So stuff like that is difficult because you're kind of trying to run in, grab the scene, and you're fighting with the elements and all that sort of stuff. But there's been nothing really, nothing else that I would. I mean, difficult in the sense that you're trying to get the right tone. You're trying to get the right. You're trying to find your way through the character. You're trying to find your way through the scene and what's going to be best for the scene. But that's not really difficult, as in a pain. That's all pleasure. That's all part and parcel of why you do what you do.
Of course. You love that. That's your art, Johnny. That's your passion. That's your pride that you love doing. And particularly that it's a low budget film. I don't think there would be let's say a wage packet at the end of the month to look forward to on such low budget productions.
Yeah. But like from the get go, we knew that, it was from the get go. It was not because Alex was struggling with you were talking about, I'm going to get your money, and I was saying I don't want money, and then John was the same. You're just saying, look, we love this, and it's sometimes the work is the reward.
Excellent. And Johnny, what would you say was the weirdest thing, if any, you had to do because of the budget, let's say, or do you remember any funny or any interesting chaotic moments, let's say, from the set?
There's been plenty. Plenty. I mean, as I said, Alex knocking on doors in the middle of summer, no, the middle of late spring, asking poor women when they enter the door, and there's this man standing there with a Christmas tree, asking them, can they put it in the window? Jar Point as well, walking around in the middle of the rain, getting a guided tour that you don't want. Stuff like that. But there's been a lot of happy accidents with the film. A lot of things that have just kind of fell in our lap that felt like kind of fate or something. That was, as I said, with the horses, and there's been a few, hasn't there?
Yeah, so many. God, it's just all the time these weird coincidences, synchronicities, just at the last second allow us to do something where we thought there was no chance.
Yeah. Even like with regards to because I was teaching a class, teaching an acting class, and Alex came and filmed the class for me, and we ended up casting one or two people out of the cast. Vince, who
he was brilliant.
He was brilliant. It was just like and I don't think we could have auditioned that part better. He was just brilliant. He was just very funny. He played it perfectly. Is just that sort of disinterest. It was very funny. Yeah. So a lot of stuff like that. Again, just having Alex that day in the class and filming Vince and all that sort of stuff was another just happy accident that we went, okay, well, let's bring him in for the clerk of the forecourts.
Excellent. Yeah, the joys of guerrilla filmmaking, folks. And Alex, what advice would you give to first-time directors? Let's say they're trying to make something on a shoestring and they're trying to get their first step in the industry.
Do it. If you're looking for permission from people, forget it. You just have to go out and do it. And every day you go out, you'll do. There's always something happens. What you say, Johnny? Like it's if you're waiting around or spending years writing scripts. Like most of the stuff that we wrote in the script happened on the day of filming. We're rewriting, so you're listening to the way the actors are doing the dialogue and you're figuring it out on the day. So you could be, leaning over stuff. Like I'm talking to myself here more than anything else because I can't offer anyone advice. This film hasn't been made yet and it could be terrible, but that's just what I think is the best way to do it, is just kind of do it.
Excellent. And you know, when things go well, when things come to fruition, and hopefully this film, you know, comes together as planned, do you hope to get a kind of a wide release in Ireland and maybe abroad?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Like I think there's no point in making a film unless people see it, and yeah, we will be very ambitious for this. I'd love to see this get a wide release in Ireland and abroad, and we'll push it as much as possible to get that.
Excellent.
No, that's a part of filmmaking people forget about is finding an audience. You have to find your audience as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So with that in mind, Johnny and Alex, do you think that do you think about your audience before you actually commit to making a film, or do you say let's go and make it and then go and find our audience? That's a very difficult thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I think it's always hard to worry. I think if you're, you know what I mean, if you're trying to make something that's popular, you'll probably do something that's a bit derivative. Whereas if you just kind of do something that you think is, so you're thinking about the project first, and then the audience will follow. If you're true to that.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting that that you say that, because your current film, Sins of Ireland, would not be kind of a niche film that many people would want to see, but it's a very interesting concept. Let's say, would you like to talk about that?
Well, just very briefly, like, so the film is about confession.
Confession.
Yeah, but really, it's not about that. It's about looking at yourself. You know, it's about looking inwards rather than pointing the finger outwards, which is in this social media world more people are inclined to do. So even though it's about this narrow idea of the confession box, which has its origins in Ireland, actually the film is about introspection. So you're always looking for something universal out of the particular. So yeah, that film played in 25 cinemas around Ireland, which is a documentary. Documentaries really are a struggle, and for that to play in all the IMC cinemas, including the Savoy and O'Connell Street and whatnot, was incredibly unique. So if that can do that, the Santa this film will go further, I think.
Excellent. And Johnny, just one last question for you. What would be the next step for you when you've wrapped this film, The Spectacle, with Alex?
Well, as I'm a producer on the film, so obviously the next step is trying to find its audience. Whatever the plan be, because Alex is a great strategic planner with films. If you look at what he did with Older Than Ireland, his plan was to get to start with the Galway. He set it out at the start. We need to start at the Galway Fleadh. We need to get the best slot at the Galway Fleadh, and we need to win the Galway Fleadh. And that's exactly the process that he took, and which led to it being released by Element, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I just plan on, my next step is just to plan on helping Alex map out and achieve whatever the strategic aim is for finding the audience for this film.
Excellent, excellent. Well, once again, folks, I'd like to thank you both for coming here today to be on the frame. It was a pleasure and an honour to speak to you, and I wish you both very well in your future careers.
Cheers, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.